Welcome to another meeting of the Geek Cabal, Cabal Whisperings. This is episode number 38. My name is Jim.
Bobbie.
And today we're going to be doing a Star Trek episode. No reason, no connection between it being episode 38 and Star Trek. It just happened to be something we wanted to discuss. No special dates, no special meetings, no special occasions. Just, we always mention it a lot on the channel. I think it's been, one of those topics that we always happen to focus on. And with the other members, I think we're probably about the only two that really have a real deep connection.
I feel like Chad has watched
a lot of them,
some Star Trek, but I don't know if he's like
as ingrained with it. So,
Chad, let me know down in the comments if you are.
Yes, we do spend a lot, or at least I do. I spend a lot of time watching Star Trek clips. Actually, Enterprise has been on my mind a lot because the clips have been coming.
Well, it was watching clips from Enterprise that convinced me to finally watch Enterprise, and I regret not watching it when it came out. By the time it was done, I thought it was good. I initially shrugged it off. I don't remember why, because I know it's not because I dislike Scott Bakula. I liked him in Quantum Leap, or that one Lord of Illusions. I think he's in that, but no, I actually ended up liking Enterprise. I do still need to get caught up on Strange New Worlds, though.
Yes, I do too. I'm on. Still got to watch season 2.
I think I'm still stuck in season 1.
Season 1 was great. But one of the things we're going to kind of focus on is we're going to be kind of talking about some what-if scenarios, and different things like that, and wherever else that would take us to. So Bobbie's got a list of topics. I think I had 1 or 2 that I threw in there. Did you put those on your list as well?
They're on my list, but those parts are in the phone.
Okay.
So this will probably not be the only Star Trek episode. If you haven't seen our channel updates, I don't know what order they're going to be in. We literally just recorded it too. We are going to be trying to do some different things with this format because we do realize it's a lot to ask people to watch a 2-hour episode of us basically just jabbering. So maybe slightly more focused, but probably shorter is what we're thinking here. So this will hopefully be a shorter episode where we only cover like 2 or 3 topics instead of like trying to cover 8 or something. We'll see how it turns out. Let us know down in the comments what you think. So, basically, I came across a couple videos not too long ago that prompted me to think, and Jim has mentioned this to me before, of trying to do some kind of what-if stuff, and I've thought about it, and I didn't know exactly what format will I should just shotgun, like, oh, this will be a what-if Star Trek, this will be what-if Marvel, this will be what-if the Terminator, whatever. So we're going to kind of test the waters here a little bit. But like I said, I came across 2 videos. One had to do with the Dawn of the Dead remake, basically speculating like, well, what if everyone had been like just a little bit smarter? And I thought that was a really good video, by the way. I got some ideas from that. But also one was specifically, and this is what we're going to address here, what if Khan had been encountered by Picard instead of Kirk? What if the Botany Bay had just not been found until the Enterprise D found it? And it was an interesting video. If I can find it, I will link to it because I want to give credit where credit is due. If I can't, I apologize. If that was your video, let me know and I'll link to it. But I don't agree with the outcomes they had because essentially Khan becomes like Picard somehow like rehabilitates him and he becomes, like a philosophical leader somewhere. And I was just like, no, Khan is a conqueror. Like Picard's not going to be able to speechify him into peace. I'm sorry. But there's some other aspects of it I just want to talk about here. So that's the basic premise. Now, there's kind of 2 tracks I want to take with this if we have time. Okay. The first is like, what are the overall implications of Kirk not running into Khan? But then the other is going to be, let's assume that the timeline wasn't seriously screwed up and that Picard is basically Picard whenever Khan runs into him. Because in the first scenario, if they don't run into Khan, there's no Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
The events of the Wrath of Khan never happen. So if the events of the Wrath of Khan never happen, the Genesis device is never detonated, the Klingons never get involved, Kirk never makes amends with his son, and then has him killed by the Klingons, and then they're not on Vulcan to resurrect Spock, which means they might be on Earth whenever the probe shows up, which means they don't go back in the past and save Earth. Like there's a whole just like that could seriously screw up everything.
Well, there's always plot convenience that would always have the Enterprise just in range.
Oh, sure.
Which, if you watch any Star Trek movie, there's always the plot convenience that the Enterprise is
exactly where it needs to be.
Yes. Even ones where you think, well, in First Contact, it wasn't they were protecting Earth, but no, it's just close enough that it could get back.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the best openings to any movie right there because, just where they're sitting there listening to all the battle stuff, and then Picard makes that decision to go. But not for this discussion. But no, to your point, I mean, obviously every one of those things would change. Now, would the eventual? I think once you get up to Star Trek V, I think it could still happen.
5 could still happen. Assuming that the probe didn't destroy everything, then yeah, I think 5 would still largely happen the way it did. But there is still the reference whenever Sybok is like, I can take away your pain, and Kirk's like, no, I need my pain. So it makes me. He's talking about the death of his son.
Yes, and So yes, you're right. But that would also make him, without having that pain, it would make him less sympathetic to whatever else he would be offering. But for the most part, could remain almost unchanged, minus, like I said, some of those things. And then 6 could remain the same, because that was the destruction of Praxis, right? The destruction of Praxis starts it, but again, you're dealing with, initially, Kirk is like, screw the Klingons, let them all die. But his point of view would be less skewed towards them. It'd be less like that, and he'd view it more probably as just another mission. He'd understand the importance, obviously, because he fought the Klingons, but I think you'd have that. You'd also have the fact that Spock didn't die, isn't reborn, isn't slightly more human, because he is after Part 4, Yeah. And I don't know, maybe Spock and Bones might not be as close, because Bones wasn't carrying around Spock's brain for a while. Like, I think there's some other things that could affect things. I don't, like I said, though, as long as they're not destroyed by the probe, I think history would largely follow the same course. It'd just be the personal parts that would change. Like, I don't think Spock would have been as great of a companion on the hiking trip in Star Trek V without being a little bit more human. Makes you, you wouldn't have to worry about trying to explain why the bridge of the Klingon vessel changes between 3 and 4. Yeah. Because it's not a huge, I mean, it's a difference, but it's not like, something that's like crazy. But if you watch them back to back, it's kind of jarring that it's not near. Because I think the one bridge that they have in 4, I think it's closer to what they have in the Next Generation. Well, I think that's why. It's because they went for a more, this is what we have the set built for now. Yeah. So yeah. So. I mean, as far as that, does that stop Kirk from, getting caught up in the Nexus? Probably not, because... No, if everything else proceeds, then he'd probably still be there. But that's the thing, though, is that you pluck that out of time, you get the butterfly effect. You just don't know what everything else down the path. He may never get pulled in the Nexus. He dies of old age, and what happens in Generations at that point? Which, yeah, I mean, it could even be something bizarre like... Christopher Lloyd's Klingon character still roaming around out there as the Klingon ultranationalist, terrorizing people, And then you don't have the biggest, disappointing thing for people, seeing Kirk die in the most, crushed by a bridge. Yes. Yeah. And not the Enterprise bridge, like he should have. That scene, people are like, if the Nexus can let you do any of that stuff, why didn't you just go back to a point in time when he didn't have a weapon or a super weapon or... Oh, yeah. No, if he could leave to go to any place, just go to as soon as they picked him up. Yes. Like, arrest that guy. Why? I'm the captain. Arrest him. I'll explain it later. Like, problem solved, So, but, I get it. They wanted to have the sad moment. They wanted to have all that, so... Yeah. Now... But I don't think it affects Kirk on like a personality level, because Khan's greater impact is in the Wrath of Khan. Well, and I think that the place that it affects him the most is that he hasn't had that major loss yet. Yeah. Because that's the one thing with Kirk is he doesn't believe in no-win scenarios, and the death of his son was really the first time he's had to deal with, which is funny because you have also where when Scotty brings like the dead person onto the bridge, or the dying person onto the bridge, instead of taking him to the med lab. Yeah. Yeah. I get it. They do it for dramatic effect, but it's like, why bring a guy that's dying, bleeding and dying to the bridge instead of just going, you know what, I'm taking him right to to sick bay and let him get taken care of, and then I'll. Yeah, I think the death of Spock also really got to him, because that was again he didn't believe in the no-win situation, and he was finally in one, and Spock was the one who made the sacrifice play, and it was literally his closest friend, and which, by the way, the in Star Trek Beyond, probably one of the least impactful death scenes they've ever did was when Kirk dies.
Well, yeah,
to try to so there's no emotional anything to
well,
it.
sure, because by that point we all understood this is just the wrath of Khan again. He's going to come back somehow. Like,
Yes, you
like
know.
we might have jettison him to the Genesis planet or something. But
Well, then you find out tribbles are actually worth something at that point. But
yeah, but the other interesting thing would be, when would they actually finally detonate the Genesis device, and what would be the fallout from that? Because even in a peaceful way, the Klingons are still going to be like, oh, so that can just like rewrite everything on a planet, huh? And that's not a weapon of mass destruction? Like, we don't believe you at all.
So in this scenario, we're talking about the Botany Bay was never encountered. So they're not.
That's the assumption.
So they're not.
Is that it's not until Picard's time that they're just
Okay.
drifting out in space somewhere.
Okay.
And
Okay. So no SETI Alpha 5.
yeah, they would not be on SETI Alpha 5.
Okay.
So that might actually end up being the test planet for the Genesis device, I guess.
Yes, because that was the planet they were looking at. So. Okay. So if we kind of shift gears now, then we've got and we're assuming Enterprise D, right?
Yeah, sometime during the series.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any point where it'd make a difference, but I guess let's assume.
Well, crew complement is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, let's assume it's after Tasha Yar died and Worf's security chief, because I think that makes it more interesting. But let's say, I don't know, season 4, season 5, somewhere in there.
And the reason I ask is because I think it does matter on certain things. The fact that he would have already been assimilated by the Borg at that point, and then unassimilated somehow, whatever. It gets some things in there. So before we kind of go into all the what ifs, some of the things that I think would make huge differences in this. I mean, obviously having Worf. I mean, Worf is probably one of the few people that can somewhat go hand to hand with a somewhat. But no, even more though, Data. Data will be a huge, differentiator if there's any hand-to-hand combat, because I don't even think Khan can quite match in hand-to-hand combat. Now, if it's weapon combat, maybe differently, but it better be something that's ranged. Because again, I don't think you're going to be like stabbing him with a sword.
Yeah, I think, to your point, I'm pretty sure Data is stronger. But I think it's going to come down to, is anyone going to think to remind Data of that fact to have him fight Khan if it comes to that?
Well, I know, but I mean, if certain things...
Because there's plenty of episodes like, oh, the Klingons are on board, and it's like, all right, Data, just go like manhandle them. Like, that just doesn't happen.
I know, but I mean, it's things. I'm saying there's kind of things that I would take into play. But the other thing is that, like, say if they're doing some sort of way to disable the people on the ship, like the Ferengi did, or whatever, that a lot of times Data's usually the one that's unaffected by any of that. He's just kind of like, oh, all these people are passed out, knocked out, whatever.
Yeah.
That there's a couple of elements in there that you have to. And the other thing is the technology of the time. Khan's a smart person, but when you have ships that are so easy to lock out and not as easy to operate, I don't care what they say, the LCAR system, I don't think is the most... Supposedly it was always designed to make it easy to operate, but I don't know.
Well, okay, so I think part of it's going to come down to, is Picard going to do something foolish like Kirk did, and like, oh sure, here's the technical manuals for the ship, read them at your leisure. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it's because Picard's necessarily like more world weary. I think it's actually because, you remember the episode where they find the people from the 20th century?
Yes.
And Picard is
yes.
just like stupidly dismissive of them the entire time. I think he's going to be that way towards Khan, and that's going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah, because they like left him in the room with the replicators, and they're just like, and the guy's just like, this is
Yeah.
it's a miracle or whatever.
Yeah, because Khan's not going to be stupid enough to be like, replicate me a knife. He's going to test things. He's going to figure out before he ever gets that limit, because he's going to assume that it's not going to make him weapons, because that would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to realize that he's Picard's intellectual superior, because he's super enhanced. But he's going to be weary of Picard, because he can tell he is an intelligent guy. But the moment he finds out about Data, I think it's going to seriously alter his plans, because he's going to have to figure out, I have to take this thing out, because it is superior to me.
Yes.
I don't think he's going to fear fighting Worf.
No.
Like he'll be worried, because I don't think he will ever encounter a Klingon. But like, Worf, unfortunately, is going to suffer from the Worf effect really quickly, I think, and Khan's just going to knock him on his ass.
Yes. Which always do like a good Worf throw, where some Worf gets thrown across the room, and
Yeah, because remember, he was able to pick up Chekhov one-armed, like 2 feet off the ground, as like a 70-year-old man. Like, this is going to be Khan in his prime. He's not going to be old man Khan.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to remember, in the beginning, did they realize what the Botany Bay was?
No.
And that's one.
It's not until later on that they realized what it was.
So that's the first question: is when they encounter the Botany Bay, are they going to be like, "Oh, we have the information on this now. We know that this is from."
Well, possibly, but the question is, why would they have the information and the Federation wouldn't have had it in the past?
And that's, well, I mean, the bigger question is, why didn't they have it in the first place? I mean,
well, because the eugenics wars, a lot of records were destroyed.
Okay, so we assume then that they wouldn't have that information. I'm just asking these questions because I'm
no, fair enough.
So then they're going to be like, okay, well, this is obviously an Earth-based ship. We can tell it's an Earth-based design. It's, it's from this around this time. Their first thing is going to be like, well, why? And I don't think the very first thing they're going to do is be, let's unfreeze these people. It's going to be, get Beverly in, have her scan these people, and make sure they're not carrying some sort of pathogen that as soon as you unfreeze them, we're all going to die, like the
right.
Like the one where they find the ghost ship that's all with everybody frozen in it because there was some sort of pathogen in there.
Yeah.
And two is, well, in that scan, would any of that stuff come up with the enhancements and all of that show that they're different? And I think the technology that they have then is probably far superior to Kirk's time.
I think that's the instant derailment, is that there's a fair chance that it would show up instantly. Yeah. And not like, oh, I need to take samples and scan them aboard the ship. Like, I think it would. There'd be anomalies, and that would probably be enough for Picard to be like, let's not unfreeze them, shall we? Unless there's a problem, like there was in the one episode, because the 20th Century ship, the problem was like they were going to die, or unless Dr. Crusher's like, well, I mean, they appear to be mostly human. Like, let's take one aboard and check it out.
Well, I think one of the problems with the original series was that there were some thoughts that probably weren't there, like reading the ship's logs.
If there were any.
Yes, and I would imagine, though, if somebody puts that into space, they probably would have some sort of log to say, hey, this is a vessel full of...
Well, it's not a prison ship.
I know.
Like, I think it was them. They were like, well, time to bug out, and they left Earth. And so I think in their interests, they wouldn't have put a log because they don't want people to know, so they do unthaw them, and then...
Yeah. Okay, so...
I do wonder what Khan would think of the fact that Data's built by one of his progeny down the road.
Yep.
Not ancestor, it's the opposite of ancestor. He's the ancestor of Dr. Noonien soon. So I do kind of wonder, like, and if Data, like, once he found out his name, would be like, oh, hey, guess what? If Khan would be like, interesting.
So I'm like a brother. Distant relative.
Yeah, it's like that. That would be an interesting path, because I doubt Khan obviously wouldn't have known Dr. Noonien soon. Yeah. Because he would have been his grandchild, great-grandchild, something. And who knows how many kids Khan had. Because, I mean, he ruled a fourth of the Earth, and it was Ricardo Montalban, and, like, was clearly an immaculate physical specimen. Like, I'm willing to bet he has a lot of kids. Hell, one of his descendants is in Strange New Worlds, right? The helmswoman, right? One of them. She's distantly related, because I think she was technically considered augmented, even though she wasn't directly, because obviously that stuff still carries through. Yep. But so saying somehow Picard beats them, like, what happens? Do they still get, like, just stuck on some planet? Do they wind up in a Federation prison? Like, what do you think happens in Picard's time?
Well, and first of all, the multitude of ways I think they would be defeated is, one, is that I don't think their crew would be large enough to take the entirety of the Enterprise. Two, the transporter technology has been so far advanced that they can transport from anywhere within the ship. So, I mean, just transport them back to their ship and, either destroy it or disable it or do whatever you need to do. And three, you'll say that somehow they do end up taking the bridge. Well, then Battle Bridge will come out and they'll just detach from the saucer section. Then what do you do at that point?
Well, the saucer section can still go to warp, right?
No.
I thought it could.
No, that's what I thought as well. But no, it's just got the the engines to move. And
So it's only the other section that can go to warp.
Yeah, it's only the engineering hull that has its
Well,
own warp core.
I mean,
Because there's no warp nacelles for it. So.
well, that makes sense then.
And if I'm wrong on that, let me know. But from everything I've ever watched, it's always been that it can detach and move away from a conflict so that the battle bridge can then go into war with all of its...
Yeah.
That's why it's got the torpedo launchers, and it's got its own set of phaser arrays on it.
Well, I think that's going to come down to how much does Khan learn about the ship before he makes his move. Like assuming a similar scenario plays out, and they bring Khan on board, and he's, I don't remember what happened, and is able to dupe them. Because if he finds out about the battle bridge, that's probably going to be what he tries to do.
Yeah.
Is separate and take the section that can go and be like, well, see you later, suckers, and take off for parts unknown. But no, because if they capture him, I think an interesting what if they put him in a Federation prison somewhere, him and his crew. I think the interesting what if is going to be, so what happens whenever the Dominion War starts? And Section 31's sitting there like, well, we've got these superhumans over here, one of whom is like a tactical genius, and now that we've stupidly brought him up to speed on like whatever century they're in, tactics and space, like, are we literally just going to see like Into Darkness play out, basically?
Maybe. I mean, I'm pretty sure, that they'd be able to manhandle the Jim Hadar at least.
Oh, yeah.
Changelings, maybe not so much.
Changelings, maybe not so much, but Khan would be ruthless against them.
Well, the thing is...
He'd be like a virus. Like, what are you waiting for? I will deliver it myself.
Yeah, I mean, the one issue with the Changelings is that their quantity of people is limited.
Yeah.
So, they have to be very sparingly, but for the fact that they ended up on Earth and, in Starfleet, impersonating people is still kind of a huge gamble for them, but...
Yeah.
But no, I think the big difference is that between Kirk's time and Picard's time is where does the Prime Directive actually fall in there? Because when it comes to Prime Directive, Picard is usually, I mean, not that he doesn't throw it to the wayside a lot of times.
He doesn't do it nearly as callously as Kirk did.
Correct. And the fact that the ship is not a warp capable vessel, I think there would be a lot more precautions taken than was taken during. Which makes me wonder, I'd have to go back and watch the episode now, because I wonder what Bones is, because it seems like Bones would also be like, damn it, Jim, you can't just unfreeze frozen people. They're frozen for a reason. Not just for traveling. Like, you don't freeze the entire crew if you're,
Yeah, although I suppose the real question is, can he win over Troy with his looks and charm like he did, what's her name in the original episode?
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, what does the empath feel on these people? Does she feel, because can Khan, sense? Because that's something Khan would not have foreseen, that, someone can tell my intent.
Actually read my mind, yeah.
Well, not even to read her. She can't read mind.
Well,
she can read intent.
Sure, but like, some level of psychic power, that would be totally foreign to him.
Yeah.
But I think if he somehow could guess like the ins and outs of how it worked, I think he could discipline his mind to not do anything.
Yes, because then she's like, "Well, I sense evil intent in this man." He's like, "Oh."
I was just thinking about the World War III. Those awful people. Like, clearly, this is a far more enlightened era. You don't have real alcohol. What the hell are you talking about? It's synthahol. What the hell's this? Put me back in the freezer.
Yes. You got poor old Scotty. He's like, "What the hell is this?" He's like, "We've got something under the counter here. What is it?" "It's green."
Now, like he smelled it, tasted. It's like it's green. Drinks up, laddie. But yeah, I do think Picard. Not that I think that he's like the better tactician or anything, because I mean Kirk's supposed to be a really good tactician, but like I think there's the technologies and the empath and data. I think he's got advantages that Kirk didn't have, and I think part of Kirk's situation was also, he's closer to the founding of Starfleet, so there's still like just those random people that went out into space at various points. They're still encountering, and but by Picard's era, like there's a lot less of that. They still come across these planets that clearly everyone's human, but like, how are you not part of the Federation? Yeah. So yeah, I think there's some give and take, but I think Picard's possible weakness is going to be, like I said, that he's just going to be like, the 20th century Neanderthals, like they're no problem at all until that idea comes back and bites him in the ass. But no, ultimately, I don't think they'd take the Enterprise because the D is so much bigger.
Yes.
There's a hell of a lot more people on it, and Khan's initial plan involved like gassing the crew or something, if I remember right. So they could just control everything from one spot.
Yeah, and yeah, you're not gonna.
And with that, unless they take out Data, they're not going to be able to do that. You know.
Yeah, yep.
So now I think Khan's in a worse position, but I also think he's not just going to get like dropped off on a planet. I think they're going to be like, here, go to this facility where we'll try to rehabilitate you. And ultimately he ends up like running Section 31 or something.
Yeah. Section 30, Section 31, they don't give a crap. They're like, whatever advantages that we can get out there. Because, I think they're just as ruthless as the Tal Shiar.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, in all their time, the Tal Shiar never like, hey, let's cook up a bioweapon to kill all the humans, or at least not that we know of. Meanwhile, humanity's over here like, death to the shapeshifters. We'll cut the head off the snake real easily.
Well, but I think they would. But I think they would have if that would have came to be. But I mean, I like Sisko's where he could. I'm surprised they didn't. They probably would have got him into Section 31 after his way of getting the Romulans into the Dominion War.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, technically he didn't do it. He just
He just set Garrick on the path, and then didn't get in the way.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna plug this in.
What happened?
You got 5% battery. I realized I didn't plug in the.
Oh. Hang on, folks. Running out of juice.
I think it's charging now. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, 3%. So luckily we. Luckily we caught that.
Glad you saw it.
Well, I happened to look up and it said the battery on that. So we'll have to leave this in here just to show you that we're human too. That things get that happen there. So
Colin would have caught that problem.
yes. But all right. So I think we're ready to. Is there anything on that final topic, and then we can move on to the next?
I do have a slightly different topic related to this one. It's another what if, but probably a lot shorter because it's going to involve pure speculation here. What if Star Trek II would have ended differently? What if Khan would have survived and not detonated the Genesis device and still had it? Essentially, let's say either he kills Kirk in the nebula, or he falls for the ruse and is like, they're going to die in the rock, I'm leaving to go conquer space.
Well, and there's two outcomes to what he could use the Genesis device for. If he's still got a beef with Kirk, it's probably going to use it on a Federation planet. Or if Kirk he kills Kirk and he's got the Genesis device, then I think what he may do is look to find a planet to detonate the Genesis device on, and then create himself a utopia to go out there and live. Because his big thing is he had to get revenge on Kirk.
Right.
And I think once he had satiated his revenge, he would. I don't know that he would have that drive to do anything. Like, I don't think it'd be like go after the Federation now, because the Federation didn't do him wrong. It was.
Yeah, I don't think he'd go to the Federation like for revenge. I think what he might do is use it as like the sword of Damocles on Earth. Not use it, but the threat of using it, and use that to prop himself up as the ruler, if he could finagle that to happen.
And that may be too, because I don't know. I mean, it depends on what his goal was. Now, I think if he like, I think Kirk had it coming, because I mean, obviously where he left him was in a hellscape. Even though it was a beautiful planet.
I was going to say, it wasn't when he left him there.
But what I'm saying is that the creatures on the planet were already there. The ear-eating, whatever the...
Yeah, but the real problem was the other planet exploding.
Yes.
Like, that's where, like, again, I think there would have been differences, because, like, in Picard's time, I think, like, someone would have come to check on him. Be like, so we're not going to, like, beam down to the planet, but, like, Kirk says he left this guy here. Like, we should check on him every few years, just to make sure he hasn't, like, developed warp travel on his own and left, or something.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think he would necessarily use it against any of the alien races, unless he could figure out how to reverse engineer it and make more of them.
So the planet they thought Ceti Alpha 5 was Ceti Alpha 6. I think it was either 4 or 6. It was one of the.
Yeah, it's the two in question are 5 and 6. I just don't remember which one's which.
Because I think it was they were thought this is Ceti Alpha 6, and then they were like, no, this is Ceti Alpha 5. The destruction of Ceti Alpha 6
exploded and threw the planet out of orbit.
Yes.
So it became more of I would assume, closer to the star.
Which also makes me wonder, wouldn't they have remembered, hey, yeah, we dropped these people off in City Alpha 5. We probably shouldn't be detonating a weapon device on a planet in an inhabited system.
That's the other thing is like, surely Kirk told somebody.
Yes.
You know, like surely is like, so by the way, even if it's just like a report to like Section 31, maybe, like, by the way, don't ever go here. And like, so any ship that tries to go, they'd be like, warning, warning, you know, danger ahead, eugenic madman, you know, don't show up. Or they should have been like, wait, why are we calling this planet Ceti Alpha 6 when there's only 5 planets? You know, like they should have noticed that there was a planet missing in the system.
Yeah.
Like there's some definite things that you have to overlook. Even though The Wrath of Khan is an excellent movie, like there's a few little things right there at the beginning you gotta be like, whatever.
Well, the other thing that people have to overlook and not think anything into it is where people are like, well, Chekhov wasn't, you know, I'm like, we don't know that Chekhov wasn't on the Enterprise.
Yeah, he could have been a member of the crew. Pecan. Yeah,
Pecan pie.
That's like Tuvix. It's the pecan. It's Picard and Khan hybrid.
He began with pecan.
No, Khan obviously has an excellent memory. Like he clearly has literally a more advanced brain. And but it even takes him a second. He's like, Chekhov. You know, it took him a second, but like he remembers him. He could have just been some random member of the crew at that point in time, and not a member of the bridge crew.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking more of, because I think pretty much anybody on the bridge, he'd probably be like, I remember you. You're blah 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 of the Enterprise. But no, so throw that out. Anyways, yes. So he gets a Genesis device. I think it depends on, first of all, if he kills Kirk or not. So say if he doesn't, say that he was able to escape with the Reliant and reconvene. I think at that point he's going to be threatening the Federation that they need to turn Kirk over. He's going to detonate the Genesis device on a populated planet, probably Earth. If Kirk is dead, I think his revenge plot may go a little bit differently. But to your point, I think seeing him go back after Earth and try to rule it.
Yeah, because my part of my thinking is it's not just that he'll want Earth again, because he already ruled part of it. It's also like once he catches up on like current affairs and realizes that there's other races out there, like he's going to want to rule all of humanity and like take the fight to the other races. So so like that's why I think he'll want Earth, because it's the cradle of civilization. But like ultimately he's going to want the whole kit and caboodle.
So he's going to turn it to the Terran Empire.
Basically, yeah. Except I think
sleeves are optional.
Except I think sleeves are optional. Knives for everybody. But I think he will try to reverse engineer the Genesis device, so he'll have more of them. Because once he has more, I think he's just going to go on a terror campaign against like the Klingons and the Romulans.
Yeah, well, I think the Klingons would be the first group he'd have to deal with, because they knew about Genesis awfully quick.
Yeah, they did.
So I think that would be the first, and I don't know. I don't know if Khan would have how fast, because he'd have to be very cautious on what he did, because at that point, if he pisses off the wrong people too soon, he's just going to get obliterated, because Romulans are not going to take a moment and not shoot.
Yeah, I think once he thinks Kirk is dead, the hot-blooded attempt is over. After that, like once he's got his revenge, now it's cold calculating Khan. Like he's going to probe, he's going to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of these people before he ever goes to fight them.
Read him Shakespeare as he does.
Yes, and that's whenever Chang will tell him that Klingon's best, or Shakespeare's best in the original Klingon, if he ever meets Chang.
That'd be an interesting what-if scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, obviously he's not superior in any real way. He's just...
No, he was cultured at the very least, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But that was kind of something I saw someone point out, how like in Star Trek 6, one of the reasons it's the culmination, it's like, Chang isn't a general we've met before, but he's like the uber Klingon general. You know, he's got the eye patch, he's quoting Shakespeare, you know, there's a real actor playing him in Christopher Plummer, you know, like he's like the synthesis of all the Klingons he's fought up to that point kind of deal. So he's like the uber Klingon general.
Yes.
But yeah. So yeah, just an interesting thought. And then like, how does Khan, let's say Khan does take over, how does he deal with all the other crap that eventually shows up, like the Doomsday device and the Borg and everything else? You know, like does Q come and screw with him? You know, he's probably too boring for Q, because he's just too, you know, hell-bent on his goals.
Well, I mean, Q may come and see and say, "Oh yeah, this is not my cup of tea." Just like when Cisco just punched him in the face, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, I've had enough of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off and do my own thing."
But yeah, that's those are the main what ifs that we had. So
There's another what if. I just thought about it. Q and the emissaries.
you mean the prophets?
Prophets, yes.
Yeah.
Because Cisco was the emissary. The prophets.
Yeah. Well,
I-
that's kind of one thing that I wish they'd clarify. Is like, there are other beings that they've encountered similar to Q. Are they all just other variants of the Q? Like, are the prophets just more versions of the Q? Maybe just not quite as far along in their evolution. It was Trelane a Q? You know, things like that. I can't think of the name. The guy's name is Gary something, who was becoming like more and more powerful. Like anything you could think of would become reality. His eyes were like chromed over.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he made that woman like that too. And then she weakened him so Kirk could kill him. Like, was he becoming one of those things? You know, like Q. You know, I mean, I like you know some things for open for discussion and debate, but also like it'd be kind of nice if we knew.
So.
You know.
But yes, I think you're right, though. I think Khan's goal would not be to live in peace. I think it would be to rule again.
Yeah. Now, I mean, towards that goal, you might be right. He might just find himself a planet and like start a whole race of eugenics people. You know, more of them, because the rest of his crew already is. But you know, so for an ultimate goal of going back out.
I just think it's, and I get why they took it out, but in the original cut of Wrath of Khan, there was a child on board. Because there's actually, like, I guess, video or a picture or still of a kid, like, up by the Genesis device, like, while it's getting ready to detonate.
Yeah, well, I mean, there would have been kids, you
Yeah.
know, because if you notice, a lot of his crew were younger people. And that means they have to be the children, because the rest would have been thawed out at the same time Khan was, so they'd be roughly his age. And the fact there's not as many older people means they didn't make it, and that Khan really just is that much tougher.
Yeah.
You know, so, or was willing to sacrifice them so he could keep his cult-like leadership status among the kids.
Yep.
Because they'd be easier to control. Because when he saw the one where he died, he's like, you know, for you, my Khan, and you know. So yeah. But no, the other thing was, and I kind of talked to Jim about this earlier, was someone brought up something about the episode The Inner Light, which is one of the best episodes of The Next Generation, if not the best. I don't think I consider it the best, but it's close. I actually think the finale's in the running for the best, because it's one of the best finales ever. It nicely wraps things up and leaves things in a nice spot, and really connects a bunch of things from throughout the series. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about The Inner Light. So in The Inner Light, if you have not seen it, which you should go watch it, so I'll give you a minute here. All right, so hopefully you're back now if you'd left. Hopefully you paused the video, because I did not give you plenty of time to watch it. Unless what happens to you is what happened to Picard in The Inner Light. So Picard, they encounter a space probe. And before they can stop it, it sends like a beam of energy, hits Picard. And Picard then lives an entire lifetime from like his roughly current age into old age, which even though he looks older, like he's not that old in The Next Generation. I think he's in like his early 40s, if I remember right. So basically from there to like Picard now, he lives this entire lifetime all in his head, because this race, they knew they were dying. They knew their sun was going to explode, if I remember right, or was going to consume their planet or something, and they couldn't prevent that. But what they could do was put everything about their race and their culture and everything into a satellite and send it out so someone somewhere would remember them. And so what it does is it plays this, you know, Picard lives his life, meets these people, finds out what happened to them. Then as he's approaching death in his old age, all the people that have died along the way in this fake life show back up and tell him what happened. And then he wakes back up on the Enterprise, and like 20 minutes have passed. So he lived an entire lifetime in 20 minutes. And he ends up, he learned how to play a special kind of flute, and so he replicated the flute. You see him in a couple episodes, it comes back up. But by and large, it's not mentioned ever again. And this is the kind of thing that like, kind of like being taken over by the Borg and unborgified, this is the kind of thing that would take years of therapy to get past. And like there would constantly be people aboard the Enterprise like interviewing him about it, talking about it, because they'd want to know, you know, for both those situations. But we'll stick with The Inner Light. And so I think this is one of the few ways where not having more connective tissue between the episodes is a detriment. Like, I love the fact it's episodic. You know, it works for the show, it worked for the original series. But, like, there are some things that should have been mentioned. And some things are, you know, like Tasha Yar's death gets repeatedly mentioned, Data's relationship with her, even though it might have been entirely in that one episode that she slept with him. But, and yes, that did happen.
And yes, he is fully functional.
Yes, fully functional. Multiple techniques. We learned an awful lot of stuff in First Contact we didn't necessarily know that we needed to know, but we did apparently. So, like, but that comes back up later on whenever they go to a different reality where she's still alive, and then that becomes a jumping off point for Denise Crosby, right?
Yeah.
To come back as a half Romulan daughter from temporal shenanigans. So, like, there, you know, episodes are referenced. That same set of episodes, Picard mentions to Spock that he was with Sarek whenever he passed in the previous episode. So things do get mentioned, it's just not nearly enough.
Yeah, I would say the only time that anything is somewhat mentioned about his living that past is a couple of times he plays the flute,
Yeah.
which and a specific type of flute from this culture.
Yeah.
And I think it's only like one or two episodes like off that you see him do that, and it's like there's nothing else to it. But no, this brings up kind of a similar episode that's in Deep Space Nine where O'Brien gets a entire sentence of punishment.
Yeah, he's convicted of a crime, and like their version of prison is like it's all up here, and so it's like several years sentence or something.
Yeah, and it's like a torture and whatever, and then they're just like bring him out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, good luck," you know.
Yep, sentence is fulfilled. Enjoy your life. And O'Brien's like, "What?"
He's like, "I just went." He's like, "It's been how many ever years?" He's like, "Well, no, it's, you know." And I think he got it way worse than Picard. I mean, Picard, yes, he did develop relationships.
Yeah, at least, but he wasn't being actively tortured the whole time.
But I mean, to that point, I don't even know if that was ever brought up again.
I don't think it was. No. O'Brien gets constantly tortured by having to fix Deep Space Nine and deal with Cardassian technology. But because he hates the Cardassians, which you know from an episode of The Next Generation, because he fought in the war against them and had to kill some of them, and like he was like, I never wanted to be a killer. Like that's why, because he's talking to a Cardassian, like that's why I dislike you, Cardassian. But yeah, no, I think that episode, if that technology existed though, see, like, because with the Inner Light, they'd have to capture the satellite, reverse engineer it. I think they did bring the satellite on board though. They would have had to have, because they'd be like, no, we need to take this to the Federation archives and like study it, and you know, so these people will be. Picard would have made a point of like, because no, these people deserve to be remembered, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it should have been brought up more, and you know, it doesn't have to be a lot. You know, throwaway lines of like, you know, Troy just occasionally like, so do you still, you know, have the memories of the other life? You know, what are they like? You know, just the occasional conversational bit.
I mean,
you know?
he should have had counseling for both that and for being turned into a
Well, yeah,
Borg.
and the Borg thing. Like he should have like double whammy on PTSD here. But at the very least on the Borg thing, like at least in First Contact, it got brought back up. You know, and like towards the end, whenever what's her name equates him to Captain Ahab, and he gives his, you know, we draw the line here, this far and no farther. Like, you know, that was clearly raging Picard that we never see. You know, so like that clearly impacted him. But yeah.
It also brings up an interesting point. Like, could you imagine, like, people already feel like their lifetime is short enough if you could just live entire lifetimes in minutes, and so it'd be like the Matrix, but instead of you just like living like your normal life at normal speed, you just be constantly living a life, dying, reincarnation, living the entire life again.
It would be bizarre, to say the least. Like, I think we'd run into like Total Recall territory there. Because that was essentially what Total Recall was. You know, it's like you're only going to be gone for minutes, but you're going to live your whole vacation at that time. Of course, the real question is, was he still asleep at the end?
Yes.
I actually saw, do you remember Attack of the Show on G4? Mm-hmm. There was an episode where they were talking about that, and I don't remember who the host was, but his co-host, he mentioned that to her, and she's like, what are you talking about? He's like, the end of the movie. Like, is it a dream or not? She's like, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, that was like the whole point of the movie. Like, we don't know if he's actually still in the chair in Recall or not. He's like, we're going to go rewatch the movie. Clearly you missed something really important. Like, that was the whole point of the movie.
Yes. Because that's even like the last line of the movie.
Oh yeah, because he's sitting there, he's like, oh God, I just had a terrible thought. What if this is all just a dream? And if you've never watched Total Recall, sorry for the spoiler, go watch it, pay attention to everything that happens on Mars, then watch the movie again, and pay attention to all the stuff that they try to sell him on at Recall. Because like, oh, we'll try this, the alien scenario, that's new. And like, everything looks like the stuff he finds underground. Oh, blue sky on Mars, let's try that. How's the movie end? You know? So...
And if you want to know the camp I'm in, it was a dream.
Well, I know Paul Verhoeven has said that everything up until he goes to Recall is not a dream.
Correct.
But he said after that, it's up to you. I think he has said that he knows which way he views it, but he's not going to spill the beans. So he's too busy defending the concept that Starship Troopers is a not a mockery. Help me out here, Jim.
I was thinking homage, but not really.
That's not homage.
Well, while you're thinking,
keep going.
While you're thinking of that, because the only way that it isn't a dream is if the fact that the beginning of the movie
parody. That's the word I'm trying to think of. Sorry.
Is if the beginning of the movie is the dream sequence, and him going to Recall is where it actually.
Well, I think it
flips.
could. I think it could actually be what we're presented as: is that he truly, genuinely is Quaid, and that like that going to Recall like fired everything that wasn't supposed to fire yet.
Yeah.
Like that it might the whole thing could be legitimate.
Because everything he was hearing at Recall was actually what he had seen on Mars at some point.
Yeah.
So, but if you go by the movie and say everything in the beginning was real, then I would say the end of it was him still being in there.
I lean towards it being a dream because it's too coincidental. Like even Cohagen tells him that at one point. He's like, "Don't you think things worked out just a little bit too?" No. He tells Cohagen like, it's too perfect. And Cohagen's like, too perfect. Like it almost fell apart like a dozen times and points it all out. And it's like, but the fact it didn't fall apart any of those times.
Could you imagine him have to go back and tell his wife, I went to Recall and had this dream where I had to shoot you or murder you with a machine gun because you were trying to kill me?
Well, actually, I think it's the other one that shot her. But yeah.
Well, but regardless, it's I had to see you get killed, but
yeah. So the point is that like there should have been some things in the next generation that carried over, And some things kind of did, like I said, obviously Data brought up the fact that he was, had relations with Tasha Yar a couple times. And then, there were other things that did come up. Worf's brother showed up a few times and, things like that.
Yeah, the whole Moog family, that seemed to be a constant throughout.
Yeah, and even if it wasn't the greatest thing in the world, it was nice, like, getting the glimpse of the actual, like, what the Klingon culture is like on the other side. Because all we ever had up to that point was what we saw from the original series, which was, these are our stand-in for the commies for our space Cold War scenario.
But I did like the episode on the Deep Space Nine where they're like, those are Klingons over there, and they're like, they're at Worf, and Worf's like, we don't talk about them.
Yeah, where they're in the Tribbles episode, and like, we're surrounded by Klingons. They're like, what the hell are you talking about, Worf? It's like, a bunch of them over there, and over there, it's like, what? Yeah, that was pretty good.
So,
but yeah. I think that's all for that one, Jim. And we're kind of approaching the 1 hour mark, and that was kind of our attempted cutoff point. So,
do we have any final thoughts on anything? I mean, I know we kind of, again, I like this because we do ramble a little bit, but at the same time, I like that we're not feeling quite the pressure of having to fit a set amount of topics in versus just having...
Yeah, and this is a little experimental. For instance, we should have written the topics down on our whiteboard that we've mentioned before that's over here. So, we'll plan ahead a little bit more for the next time.
And we also understand that, if you're not into Star Trek, this may be a podcast.
Yeah, we tried to warn you right up front on that one. So...
But I also should have said that if you're not into Star Trek, maybe watch this and see if there's, a little bit of whatever. Because I think with Owen, one of the things is he's big into Star Wars. I have not got him into Star Trek yet. I think he would really, really like Star Trek. I think it would be a...
Yeah, I actually saw something. It's just a short. It was Brent Spiner. He was on, I guess Katie Sackhoff probably has a show of some kind. Mm-hmm. And he was on there and he was talking about Star Trek compared to other sci-fi series. And he's like, well, obviously people compare it to Star Wars because they're the juggernauts. And he's like, but I think it's a fundamentally flawed comparison because they don't address the same topics.
No.
He's like, Star Wars is grand adventure and, good and evil, at its most basic. And he wasn't saying that to knock Star Wars. He's saying, it does what it does well. And Katie Sackhoff kind of chimed in, like, and hope seems to be a real big part of it too, and it is. Whereas Star Trek talks about current events, but behind the shield of the distance that sci-fi allows you to do that with, where you can address important topics, but you dress it up to the point that, it's not beating you in the face with it. And I really like, excuse me, oh God, sorry. And I like that he addressed, he didn't outright call out the newer versions of Star Trek, but I like that he mentioned the whole, like, so it's not preaching to you, it's still covering important things, but it's not preaching to you about it. It's discussing it. It's presenting you, with problems, and, they don't always have solutions. So, because that's one thing about the original series and the Next Generation, like, sometimes they just leave, and they're like, well, this is what happened. Sometimes they do come in and, moralize and speechify. And usually it's something that most people would agree with, like, like the May This Be Your Final Battlefield, I think is the name of the episode, with Lokai, I don't remember the other guy's name, the half black, half white guys, where they're just like, this is so dumb. Why do you hate each other? You're clearly the same species. Just like something diverged at some point. Like, that's obviously a euphemism for racism in the real world. But most times it's like the episode where they encounter that race that they're all transgender, is what it was.
Yeah.
But some of them are born with more masculine or feminine traits, and since Riker will sleep with anything, he found one that was kind of like a woman and was trying to convince her to become a woman, completely. And, like, she didn't. At the end, she got, like, brainwashed or whatever by them to be back like the rest of them were. And, like, they never were like, oh, that's awful, or oh, that's great. They're just kind of like, well, sucks for you, Riker, I guess. But, like, it is what it is. It's their culture. Time to move on. And so, like, there's a lot of episodes that end that way. They leave it up to you to decide, like, was that the right course of action or not? They don't beat you over the head with the message. Unless, of course, the message there was like, let people's cultures be their own. Maybe I missed the message, who knows? But I don't think that was the message, but I could be wrong.
And even if you don't sit there for the messages, it's a vision of what our future could be, where money is a thing of the past, where people are living their lives, people have...
people are living their lives for something other than endlessly toiling.
Where the one thing that, that always got me is the fact that people would be joining the Federation not for... Really, the biggest benefit of joining the Federation is that's a way to get off planet and to get into space travel besides being like a freighter.
Yeah.
Because I don't think travel amongst the planets is as easy as, I'm assuming you can get a flight to Risa or whatever to go on vacation, but it's not like people have their own starships. It's like if you want to be someone to travel the stars and have those experiences, you join Federation, and people are joining it for, that and for other reasons, for pursuit of science, pursuit of different things.
Yeah, I get the impression it's a lot more for the exploration part. For the I want to see things, I want to do things, and not this is my only chance to get a college GI Bill, or something.
Because from what I gather, people have what they need to survive. They have entertainment. They have whatever. People can still run restaurants and stuff like that. Like, I always wondered, what was Sisko's dad's motivation for running a restaurant?
Just likes cooking.
He likes cooking. That's it. That's not a monetary thing. You don't tip. You don't do whatever.
Yeah, there's parts of the whole situation that really need to be explained because they don't make a lot of sense. Because, like with Sisko's dad, does he own the restaurant? Okay, like, according to who? And like Picard's Vineyard. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, he has it, sure. I assume that means he actually owns it. But, like, since there's no money or anything, like, how does that work? And then, like the bottles of the wine he makes, he doesn't sell them because there's no money. So does he just give them away? Does he just give them to friends that he knows? Does he, like, take them to a local wine store, and if you happen to be passing through, you pick up a bottle of Chateau Picard 76, or like there's certain elements of the economics that you can say there's no money, but there has to be something,
And depending on where you're at, you do sometimes still run across money. So Deep Space Nine, they have to be paid because all of the shops there expect to be paid in currency or gold pressed platinum or whatever.
And the gold pressed platinum is because it can't be replicated. Because if you could replicate the money, then the money becomes worthless instantly. That's why it's gold pressed platinum. It's a liquid inside of solid gold, if I remember right, is how it works. But yeah. Like I said, there's some things. There's a gentleman has an interesting video about it, trying to explain that they're not socialist or communist like people try to say that they are, because those ideas, along with capitalism, and I'm going to go off here just for a moment, folks, they all revolve around the concept of people going to factories to work. You know, that there's work to be done to keep society moving, the means of production, so to speak. You know, capitalism assumes that the moneyed interest own them. Socialism assumes that the people own them, the people being the government, essentially. Communism just believes the government owns it. Again, the people. That's an insanely basic version of that. I'm sure some Karl Marx theorists will tell me that I'm all wrong, but you know what? You guys make a system that works and I'll listen to you.
But when you take the need for production or the need for farming out of the equation, and now you're like, well, we've got these replicators, we've got these robots or tools that can go out there and do all that.
Right. So the concept of the means of production, of ownership, have completely changed. So like capitalism, communism, socialism, those do not apply to Star Trek because it's a whole separate way of doing things. That was part of Roddenberry's genius was, I'm going to talk about a better future. I'm going to jump past the messy part and assume we got to the better future somehow. You know, and we're going to talk about what could be instead of how we got here. Because he's not trying to be a prophet and tell you this is how we're going to get here. This is how we're going to get to the promised land. He's like, let's just imagine the promised land. And, you know, the glory it could be.
And yes, and that's where some of the explanations of how you get there would be interesting. But I don't think it's as simple as whatever. I think technology has to get to a point where, like, if we had replicators, which we're getting to the point, we've got 3D printers now that can print things, but it's not to the point of like the replicators where it could transform one material into another, like food.
Yeah.
When you get to that point where you can make food out of whatever's laying around, where you can change the genetic, or not genetic, the molecular makeup of things to transform into one. So pretty much alchemy. Then you know that's where you can start getting to that point of utopia, which I don't think we'll ever get to that because I don't know that that's ever a thing that's going to.
Yeah, I mean, we may never have technology like that, but we could, if we get to mining things in space and figure out how to bring those products back to Earth and things like that, things we've kind of talked about a little bit on here. If we do get to that point, then scarcity will always exist. And I've seen people argue that it doesn't exist now. They're fools. Scarcity exists. But things will be far less scarce. And some things will exist in an abundance. And that will cause us collectively to have a shift in our mindset. Because right now, we have one planet. Like, the stuff that's here is what's here. Now, there is far more than everyone needs here. Like, don't let anyone fool you. Like, it is scarce in that there's only so much of it, but also, like, we've barely tapped the things underground we can mine into. Like, there's only a handful of things. I think iron's one of the only things that we've done most of the surface mining that could be done. So a lot of steel is recycled, but steel can be recycled. So, you know, but there's all kinds of other elements. Like, we've only ever gone so far down. And like we have literally an entire planet's worth of material to work with. It's more like the biomass that shifts that that's the thing we need to be far more concerned with. But no, the moment we get to like mining asteroids and things like that, which that is technologically possible now, in my opinion, we just don't have the will and the effort to do it.
Well, and I think for that, getting to Mars would be probably the first thing. Getting established for the far out exploration, unless we're planning on doing this like with drones and.
Yeah, I've seen the arguments that we should just send out robots. So there's no reason to send people. But I'm of the opinion like, no, we need to send people. Like, people need to be there and make decisions and things like that. And we got to test things out. But yeah, essentially, in my opinion, we need to just build more infrastructure in space. There's got to be more stuff. More things to process, things to build, things to maneuver, and some of that'll be in low Earth orbit, some of that'll be around the moon, some of that'll be on Mars, maybe Venus if we go the other way. Not on the surface of Venus. It'll be crushed and incinerated, but, small steps. But
terraform it.
Well, I've seen people make the case that it'd be easier to terraform Venus than it would be to terraform Mars.
But yeah.
So, I don't know.
Venus has an atmosphere.
Oh, it's got one hell of an atmosphere. So thick we could just build floating cities in it, apparently.
Yeah, supposedly if you did that, the temps would be actually fairly mild in the upper atmosphere. Where
yeah, that's what I've heard. But the point is, like, we could get to a point of greater material abundance, in which case some of these things become more probable. Will we ever have the magical bullshit box to transform things? Maybe not. But even if we do, we'll still need near infinite energy to power it, which again the Federation has solved. But that's another step along the way. We basically have to have fusion power probably.
But I think the next part is going to be, we're getting into the realm of AI and robotics. So either we'll have a future where most manual labor is done by robots, and we can start living, in a utopia that way, or we live in the Skynet era, and they've taken over us and enslaved all of us at that point. So
I think we might hit the dystopia speed bump where robots do most of the jobs and all of us are just unemployed. And like the rich people haven't figured out that like the peasants need money to buy your stuff for you to have money. Like it's like I talked about in this. I did a BattleTech book review and I mentioned this. So Jim, follow me here just for a moment.
All right.
Okay, so in our history, medieval kings were basically some of the most powerful people who have ever lived. All right, they're as close to being a god as possible, other than like a sultan or an emperor or something. So, and similar things are going to apply here. So a medieval king theoretically owns, under the feudal system, owns the country. It's like the English king owns England. All of the knights and nobles and everyone else are just vassals for the king. Okay, they are just taking care of some of the ground that the king owns. In exchange, they have the title, they have to provide troops for war, and taxes. And then they in turn get their taxes from taxing the people below them, and so on and so on. So, medieval king, all powerful, all this stuff, still had to shit in a pot because there was no indoor plumbing, because there was no middle class to build and design these things. There were artisans who could make fantastic sculptures. There were a handful of learned people who could make more technologically advanced things. But there was no class of people. There were no universities to educate people in schools. And to achieve that, a poor person now can have things that a medieval king could only dream of. One, indoor plumbing, but two, like the ability to eat whatever you want. Because like even if you're poor, if you live in New York City, every type of cuisine known to man is available to you there. I've seen people that live in tents that have flat screen TVs. Okay, I'm talking someone that lives on the street, has things that a medieval king couldn't have. Forget like people that actually have an apartment somewhere, who have air conditioning, just all kinds of things. And to achieve that, all they had to do was give up like 10% of their power to allow other people to have money and means. And in exchange, people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk are probably wealthier in terms of actual physical money. I mean, it's not money, it's tied up in stocks, but you know what I mean, than a medieval king could ever dream of being.
Yep.
More money than treasuries ever would have held. And all it cost them was they're not absolutely powerful. They're like 90% powerful. And the problem is like that scenario goes back to the absolute power. And it'll be stupid if it happens because they'll learn the same lessons that like the people at the bottom, if they have money and jobs, who do they buy from? They don't buy from other poor people. They buy from Amazon. The money goes to Jeff Bezos. So it's in their interest for people to still have jobs.
Yeah.
But we're working towards automating everything. So I don't know. Like maybe we'll see. I've seen people like some of it's political here for a moment. I've seen some congressional people have proposed taxing those kind of factories and using that as like a dividend to pay out to the people. Because like, well, if no one's working there, like, is literally all of the money going to whoever owns it? Like that's great, but like that's screwing your potential customers too.
Yeah, and I think that's. I know,
and that's the dystopian moment I think we're heading towards.
And that's where you have to try to figure out. It's because by no means do I think, as much as some people say, well, your Elons and your Jeff Bezos, that they should just have everything taken from them.
No.
And I don't agree with that. I mean, don't get me wrong, like they are stupid rich, beyond anything that somebody should be. But I mean, you look at Jeff Bezos, for example. I mean, when you see the beginnings, he was like in a room.
Yeah.
I mean, he built it.
He was a guy selling books because he thought books were important.
And it's like, it's like I can't get after somebody for doing something and starting from nothing and becoming uber wealthy. Now, the problem with that is that how do you get to the point where, like Bobbie was saying, is where you can have the workforce, or you can move the workforce to something automated or something that takes away the need for people to have to work, but still allow people, that have earned certain things to, and it's like, what do? Do you do a reward type system? Like if you put stuff into the economy or you put stuff into infrastructure that you get X amount of privileges or X amount of things. It's like, it's such a gray area. It's like, but I think it can be done. I think, people that, are saying, hey, go to school, learn how to develop new things, and your status will improve upon that. And then if you were able to do something like that, then you can start putting it in place where people that, have no, and I'm not saying it's mean, but if people that have no desire to do anything besides live can do their thing. People that want to have more status, more whatever, can provide to society, kind of like the Federation. Like they can go and say, I'm going to go work for the Federation, we're going to fly into space, explore space, and I get more status, I get more things for me. And then the people that are managing and really developing the technologies, they can get their own status because they're providing something for everybody at that point. But how do you get to that point? That's the question, because the powerful are going to want to remain powerful. The people that don't want to do anything, that that they just want to be able to do what they want, they're going to still want to do what they want. How do you get that across the board? Because
how do we do that without like French Revolution 2.0?
Yeah, because
I would absolutely love to avoid that if at all possible.
Yeah,
because I've studied history a little bit and I don't want to live through that.
Yeah, no. So it's like, how do we get to that Star Trek things? So
yeah, I mean, to be there, like I said, it's going to require a radical rethinking of things, but we have to actually be at a point that we can do that. Now at the moment we live in a world predominantly, with scarcity. So we have to have a system that handles that. And it's going to take more than magical thinking to be beyond that. But, thinking towards that is good. I'm actually reading a book about that right now, and towards the beginning of the book, it's actually something that the author points out is that, like, in this country, we used to think in, like, near limitless terms, like, that we can do anything. But over the last 60, 70 years, we've been brought low to this, there are limits, we can't do this, we can't do that. And he's like, we've got to stop that. Like, yes, we now have a clearly defined nation. We can't literally just keep sprawling. We're past that phase. However, the resources we have in this country are very extreme, like between actual physical resources, human capital, actual capital. Like, we should not be thinking in these limited terms. And not just our country, there's other countries, for better or worse. Like, I despise their system of government, but like China's in a similar position. They've got all kinds of people. They've got resources. They've got to import a lot, but they've got resources. They've got, tremendous factory resources at their disposal. Like, them thinking in limited terms would be foolish on their part too. If the Russians were to start thinking this way, they'd probably be better off than they are right now. They have all kinds of natural gas resources and everything. Instead of like looking at their neighbors, like look inward. Like, they've got the resources, that not so much the people anymore, but like the stuff's there. It just requires a different mindset.
Yep.
And fortunately, we still have some people that have that mindset.
Yeah, the other thing that I would look forward to in the Star Trek future is where we are one planet, not nations within a planet. That we are truly one unified planet. Where
I'm personally torn on that one, Jim.
Well, no, and I don't mean that there wouldn't be. I mean, obviously, you're still gonna have countries and stuff, and there has. I don't think we would have one governing body ever. But I mean unified as a people.
As a people, I agree.
Because that's the other thing that Star Trek gets to the point is that, we go through the Third World War and we come out on the other side where people are like, yeah, let's not go through that again. Let's come together as a people. And
hopefully it doesn't require that.
I sure the heck hope not, because I don't want that to be the thing. But
I would much prefer peaceful alien contact to be what does it, but if I have the choice between the two things.
Yeah, as long as it's not the Mirrorverse First Contact.
Yeah, no, well, it's bad for the Vulcans. Worked out all right for the humans for a while.
Yeah.
But
Zephyr Cochrane blowing away the Vulcans with a shotgun.
Yeah. But no, and we talked about that in the space stuff. Like I do feel the U.S. would probably take the lead in a lot of the space stuff just because of our technological advantages and our older space program, and we have more institutional knowledge, and again, more wealth and ability to use the money for things like that. But it's not that I want the U.S. to go it alone. Like, I want China to help us. I want Russia, because we still have contacts with Russia as far as space things. Despite the current situation, like, we still cooperate with them on space. We both agreed that, like, whatever's happening down here, this is important up here.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the ways that we get into space at the moment.
Yeah, and like I would like to see that, like, with China, to make them less of an adversary for our country. I would like to see that with India. You know, they've got a population, they've got, you know, educated people, they've got resources. You know, countries in the Middle East, they've got the money to throw at the problem. You know, and that's a lot of what it's going to take, is basically money. I think the will is there for some, but it's basically it's a huge financial investment. But the potential payoffs are literally astronomical. Yeah, you like it?
Okay.
But so yeah, no, I want, you know, it's a human endeavor. It's not an American endeavor.
Yes.
You know, we can lead the way, but like, I want everyone else to come with us. You know, so yeah, because I do feel that everyone else does have something to contribute. You know, it isn't just America going out there, potentially maybe actually meeting some other beings. You know, it's humanity. So yeah, so in that respect, I agree with Jim. You know, united like that, totally agree.
Yeah, I think as a, and I don't know that even way that Star Trek has that. I mean, I think you would have, like, you'd still have like your United Nations or something where things are brought together. But
I think there's a planetary government, because there's a president of Earth.
yeah,
I don't know if the countries, I mean, the land masses, they still know what they are or what they were, but I think it's the planetary government, and then Earth is the leading member of the Federation.
yeah,
And then Starfleet is the Space Force of the Federation.
Yes.
I think is the breakdown of all that. Because, like, Vulcan clearly still has their government, and, you know, these other planets do. And then they have a representative in the Federation or something.
and I think you still would have your countries would still have to have their individual governments too, but they would have to align with the planetary.
Yeah, it essentially become like how we have, like, in the U.S., we have you'll have a city, a county, and a state government, and then we have the federal government. I think it'd basically be the federal government would be like a larger state government above the states, is how it would end up happening.
Yeah. Because I think, you know, you're starting to run into, well, what affects us is not going to affect, you know, other countries and stuff. So
yeah, whenever Nero shows up and fires a big laser at the planet or something, like, you know, sorry, San Francisco, but Nebraska's just fine. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. You know.
So.
But yeah, we went over a little bit more than we planned, but, you know.
No, I think it's good.
Hopefully it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think I like the format. You'll have to let us know if you like it, and also if there's any topics related to this or anything else that you'd like us to discuss. You know, definitely let us know down in the comments down below. But yeah, I think this will bring this meeting to a close. Oh, you got something else?
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
And thank you for all the folks that helped us get over 500 subscribers not all that long ago. And hopefully you'll stick with us into the distant future of the next generation or something.
Yes. Yes.
After we've turned our brains into a jar in a vat somewhere, or a vat in a jar or something. I'm getting that all wrong. But anyway, you know what I mean, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess this will bring the meeting to a close. And yeah. So I guess we'll have to do a Star Trek outro with the live long and prosper. I can't do it, so.
Really?
No. Do not have the dexterity in my hands to do it.
Yes, so live long and prosper.
All right. See you.